But you have to be consistent. You can't do anything as a realtor and do it once or do it twice. You have to consistently do it. A lot of people give up after 3 months. You can't give up. You can never give up.
So I'm always in the mood for a good story. And as I was perusing the internet this week, I stuck away from AI. I went in a different direction and I found a real estate agent on the East Coast who is the sixth generation of family members living in her area. Like her family literally has been landowners since the Native Americans sold them some property. So not only when you work with her are you getting more local knowledge, you're getting that family history, but you're getting someone who understands the cycles of what the area was, what it's become, and where it's going. On top of that, she has 20 years of experience. So Libby McKinney in serving the Southport, Westport, Connecticut areas. Welcome to the show today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So I just want to jump into this because you fascinate me because you did and are still doing the work that other salespeople are frankly not doing ever, but then especially not doing once they get to your level of success. I've probably had 100 agents on the show, and maybe three of them have ever admitted to door knocking. But not only is that how you started your business when you had nothing, but you, as a $50 million a year producing realtor, solo producing realtor right now, are still door knocking. And so I just want to hear about this because usually that's the first thing an agent abandons when they get any volume of business. And you're doing 50 million, you're still doing it. So there has to be something to it. Like, do you have a magic power? Why and how are you doing
No
this?
magic power.
Okay.
I come from a political family, so politics has always been in my blood, and I love people. So for me, door knocking is actually fun. It's a way to get out in your community, talk to people. Everyone likes to talk real estate. And it's very important that you consistently stay top of mind with everybody. So I find if you let one piece of your strategy go, you're going to lose clients or lose opportunities for clients.
It's also a great way to not ride the roller coaster, right? So we all have this thing where we get busy, we stop doing what we were doing, we get slow, we do it again, we get busy, and you're not having that because you're staying consistent with it. But on top of the door knock, like when you first became an agent, you didn't have any listings, and really, like other than having a lot of local knowledge, you didn't have a great reason to door knock. So what was the reason you found a door knock? Because I think any agent even today could use that.
So I think what I started doing was I started looking at other realtors' listings, and I would door knock that area, knowing they probably were not. And I would introduce myself. I would mention the fact that I am sixth generation. I've lived here and raised my children here. And I didn't know if they knew that the house down the street was on the market and what it was on the market for. And most of them didn't know. So they love local knowledge.
They're also nosy.
Well,
Like
exactly. Who doesn't?
they're all nosy. Like every time a house, anything happens in my neighborhood, everyone knows that I work in real estate. They all call me, text me, whatever. So I'm like, why don't we just get ahead of that and give them the information first? And that's kind of what you
It's the
did.
most fun topic. And to be honest with you, I didn't work for 17 years. I stayed at home and I raised my children. And it was really important for me to kind of get out into the world in professional clothing and not in a tennis skirt, not in my mom clothes, and just let people know that I'm out here. This is what I'm doing. And I'm going to be doing it for a long time.
That's huge. I think it's really interesting. So that story. So what got you into real estate in the first place? So you said you weren't working for 17 years. I think that's probably a story that a lot of people listening can relate to. But what was your exact
I
path?
was I was devastated that I couldn't get a job. I was in PR for years and chose to give it up to raise my children. And then when my youngest was in full-time school, I needed a job. I wanted a job, and no one would hire me. So I actually went and sat with my family at dinner one night, my mother and extended family, and they all looked at me and they laughed. They said, "Why haven't you thought of getting your real estate license?" Because six generations of us have grown up here. All of us have raised our children here. We know everything there is to know about the town, the surrounding towns, the schools. Like I was a local knowledge without using it in any way. So I thought, you know what? It's not a bad idea. So I thought I would go to school and just see if I had the flavor for it. And I, for the first time in my life, loved going to class.
I love
Loved
that.
it.
And I think it's so interesting because people either get into real estate because they don't know what else to do or because they're in love with some aspect of real estate. And you had the first and then you discovered that you had the love for it second. But you had that local knowledge. Now, I'm sure you've come across agents either who have been on your team or you've met who maybe aren't from the area. How would you recommend someone starts to build that knowledge? Because not everyone can be sixth generation.
So, I think a lot of people, they don't canvas a farming area. That was something in real estate past. But I believe real estate past should be real estate future. So I think that when you are consistently farming an area, you become so knowledgeable about everything there. If you door knock it, you're meeting everyone there. If it has a local library or a local supermarket, you can be there. There're just so many avenues. But if you're the kind of realtor that is just taking business wherever and however you can, I can't imagine you're going to become the local source that way.
Well, that makes total sense. And, especially in different areas of the country where the markets are so spread out, I think it can be really difficult because most agents have that mentality that they need to be everything to everyone, but then you're really nothing to no
Right.
one. And, if you at least pick a couple, you can do business wherever a client calls you.
Right.
But if you pick a couple areas to say, like, hey, I'm going to study and I'm going to truly be the expert in these areas, and I'm going to know about what's coming on the market before anyone else, that's really where you build knowledge that you can then do more with. That becomes your social media, that becomes your door knocking area, that becomes your mailing area. And every single thing you're doing is focused on those areas. I love that example. How long were you in real estate before you started doing like a sizable amount of business? And obviously prices change and the market's different everywhere, but how long did it take you before you were like, hey,
So
I'm doing real business
I
here?
think people who know me know I'm very competitive and I'm very dedicated. And I'm not going to do anything unless I know I can do it to the best of my ability, which actually means being one of the best. And when I finally decided what company I wanted to work with and work for, my very second day at work, the phone rang, and it was a couple coming from California. They needed to find a house this weekend and only this weekend. They wanted to be in a certain town, a certain area, in a certain school system, and they wanted me to help them. Their budget was $2 million. That was 20 years ago. So the greatest thing about it was when it came to filling out the paperwork, getting in the door, those logistics I had never done. I was brand new. But when it came to the area and the knowledge of the area, I could pick out 5 houses to show them right in my own head because I live here. I grew up here. I know the area so well. So we had an incredible time. They wanted to put in an offer. I called an agent, a senior agent in my office. They helped sit me down and fill out the paperwork the right way. We bought a house, and that was the beginning. It just never stopped from there.
Kind of joke. Something I say all the time is it's a race to get your first deal, and you can kind of fake it before you make it a little bit
We
there
actually say
because
that, fake it till you make it.
yeah, like that client, all they really cared about was your local knowledge because the fear that they had in moving is that they didn't know the area and they had to do it quickly.
Right.
So what they really wanted is someone who could tell them about the area and guide them in the right direction. What they didn't care as much about was the negotiation, the paperwork, all that. And that's also the part that you can get someone else to help with and have that not reflect badly on yourself.
Correct.
The other thing that I think is interesting that I want to make sure people pick up on is that you didn't just get that $2 million listing or that $2 million buyer because you answered the phone and because you worked at a brokerage. You got that in part because that broker knew that your knowledge of the area was so high that you'd be a really great fit for that person. Now, obviously, your broker probably would have also wanted to take that because, like, who wouldn't want a $2 million buyer? But I think it's important for agents to remember that whoever answers the phone at your brokerage needs to have a reason to refer you. Because there's so many agents at most of these brokerages, and you need to stand out. You need to have something in some sort of relationship with the person that either answers the phone or hands out those leads so that they can remember which types of clients to send to you. And the bigger the brokerage you're at, the more that becomes important. I mean, I have one guy who literally buys the receptionist lunch once a week, and that is the number one line item in his marketing
I'm gonna
budget. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, that's easy.
I might have to try that.
Yeah, right? Like, you give people some attention that are the people in the brokerage who get the least attention, but who are controlling, millions of dollars worth of leads.
It's so funny.
You,
The phone calls really aren't coming into the office as much. They're finding a way to find the listing broker. So I'm lucky that the growth of my business has gotten where it has in today's world. Um, but that being said, COVID stopped people from going into offices in all aspects of life. But I was in the office every day, and I stayed in the office every day. And I find when I look at the records of the agents who work in my company, it's the agents who aren't coming into the office that aren't doing as well. And it's not because we're getting calls into the office. It's because they're getting up in the morning and they realize they have a job and they're going to their job and they're working. They're finding work to do.
what a surprise. People that treat real estate like a
Yeah.
job do well. I mean, I joke to everybody that the number one thing that gets people into real estate is the want for freedom and flexibility. And the number one reason that 90% of agents don't do any business is that they embrace the
They take
flexibility.
advantage of it.
They take advantage of it. They're like, hey, I'm going to work when someone calls me because I'm pretty cute or funny. And then they take that deal and then they wait for the next one to come
Yeah.
in. I prefer a method where I find a great opportunity of a house and I call 20 buyers, 20 people and say, like, you need to buy this property
Yeah.
now. Like, I want to grip this and seize the day and make my own paycheck and create that because I'm not going to wait for phone calls to come in. And too many people show up to I should say, show up to their home office. They open up their MacBook on their counter while they're making coffee, and then the first thing that happens to distract them, they don't do any real estate work the rest of that day.
Correct.
Versus I want to tease you a little bit here. You loiter at train
Yeah.
stations.
I loiter at train stations.
I mean, I'm sure you've probably never been arrested for loitering, but I want to hear a little bit about your train station strategy here because where I live, we don't really have trains, so that wouldn't be possible. But there's an equivalent of what you're doing in every small town or big town in the United States. So I'd love to hear why you loiter at train
So
stations.
I think for me, I think for every realtor, fear is what's stopping them from marketing themselves in a door knocking, cold calling sort of a way. It's always fear. It shuts them down. And I too had no business, and I didn't know how I was going to start my business. I wasn't going to sit and wait for the phone to ring. So I was a little fearful of picking up the phone and using. I have an extensive sphere, being sixth generation, and I just wasn't ready to go to them being a brand new agent. So I had to go somewhere and just test it. And I was always in a political family. We used to always walk the train tracks and, meet people as they commuted and talk to them about, my father or my brother and their seats in office and, vote for them. So I love doing that. I love talking to people and being in front of them face to face, not on a phone. So I really thought, you know what? If I get up every single day and go to the gym at 5 a.m., I can give up a few of those days at the gym to be at the train station. So I would go with flyers on the local real estate, what was on the market, what had traded, my name, who I was, and I got my first listing from walking the train station. So yeah,
Uh, so, I mean, realistically, everyone at the train station has a job. So if someone is at a train station at 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock in the morning, they're going to work.
right.
They're not running errands at the train station. So they're going to work, meaning they have a job. They probably work in the city or in a different city, which means for them to want to commute, they probably have a really good job. And number two, there's probably a lot of people who live really far from where they work who are interested in moving all the time. So you found a place to be that had a captive audience. And I'm just going to guess, tell me if I'm wrong, that you probably never encountered another realtor doing what you were doing whose territory you were
No,
stepping on. All of those realtors were probably sitting at their office with 30 other realtors fighting over the coffee that was free and the office leads. Yeah, you found a different stomping ground
so
and it became your own
when
territory.
I when I first started. the gentleman that I work for decided to give me a tagline, and he called me the early morning realtor because I did the train station at 5 a.m. 18 years later, a woman got her real estate license and came into this office and she said, I want to work where the early morning realtor works. Now, that hasn't been my tagline for a long time, but she rode that train and she remembered me. And she remembered the interest people had in my flyers, that some people just threw them on the ground. She said it was comical and you just kept coming out there and you kept handing stuff out and introducing yourself. So it's just funny when you realize you've related to someone.
So let's bring it into the future. So in your area, the train station might be a thing.
Yeah.
If you're an agent in an area without trains, like there's no trains in my area, like what types of places would you be at to meet people like that?
So wow, I think door knocking is a great way,
Okay.
but you have to be consistent. You can't do anything as a realtor and do it once or do it twice. You have to consistently do it. A lot of people give up after 3 months. You can't give up. You can never give up. So, for me at the beginning of my business, the only way to get business was to work open houses for other agents, and I did it. And the Friday before the open house, I would door knock the entire neighborhood where the area around it didn't have to be a neighborhood, and just let people know I was going to be there hosting an open house. This was the house I was going to be at. This is what the house offers. I would love to invite you as a neighbor to come see it and just do that kind of work. That's a way to get in front of people that you would never have an opportunity to meet. You can also be on boards, or you could go to your local library. There are a lot of things that you can do to get in front of people that you know don't normally get to see.
I think the write this down moment that you're getting at is that every agent needs to write down three specific ways that they can meet new people on a consistent basis, no matter
Right.
what. So whether that's let's say the gym, like there's a gym near me that we don't like. It's not the country club vibe. It's like the hardcore gym vibe. But everyone that goes to this gym, the parking lot is filled with beautiful cars, and they have free daycare, so that like all the moms are coming in at 8 o'clock, dropping their kids off, doing their classes. And I'd say, if a realtor stood in the parking lot there, or better yet, bought a membership, came inside, and started buying coffee or buying protein shakes for everyone, like that person would meet everybody within 5 miles of that gym within a 2 to 3 month period, and then could stay consistent with it.
Exactly.
In other areas, I'm sure it's something else. In a lot of these small towns, there's 2 or 3 local coffee shops where everybody's going to every single morning. I know agents in one of those areas do coffee shop buyouts, where they pick up the tab twice a month on a designated day for anyone buying coffee and basic lattes. But if you're a realtor or a salesperson and you don't have some way that's going to guarantee that you can add to your database every month, it's going to be hard to consistently grow your business other than your price point.
Correct.
So what are you working towards? So I know this year was pretty big for you. You had a couple massive months. I think I pulled numbers, and in February you did like $20 million in sales. I know some of those probably were closings that just hit at the right time, but what are you doing differently this year? What are your plans for the future?
I love this business because I love my clients, and I take pride in the fact that I know when one of my clients sells their homes or one of my clients buys a home, they are in the perfect place for who they are and what they need. And I equate that with local knowledge. It's never been about, obviously I have to pay my bills and I need a job and I need to make money. But for me, it's never about soaring to the highest number and being the biggest and the best. That's really not what I love to do this job for. I love this job because I am a people person and I love people. And I love the fact that I really feel like I know I can put them in a place where they won't regret it. And
Well, no, when we talk about putting them in a place that they won't regret it, inventory is tight. And when we chatted earlier, you mentioned that you don't always, like, sometimes the best thing is to not listen to your buyers and to give them something that they didn't know they wanted. Talk to me a little bit about that.
so today, everyone's coming over the internet. Everyone sees the home, sees all the homes, before they physically walk into a home. And I think if you're not in the area to which you are trying to buy a home, there's so much you need to learn. So what I do with my new buyers per se is I will meet with them. I will go through what we're going to see on the computer in my office. We talk a little bit about the pros and the cons. I also tell them, that these two that you wanted to see, those are just going to be drive-bys, and you'll understand more about why I say that when we drive by. Because I don't want to waste a lot of their time. You don't want to show a lot of homes, but I know out of the group they're giving me which ones they should probably see and which ones they shouldn't. And I think about everything from location. I hear what they want in a school, so I think about the school systems. I was married to a mortgage broker, so this is the equity, in their home. I want to make sure that anywhere one of my clients lands, they will be able to resell that house in any emergency for the amount of money that I probably sold it to them for, if not more. It's very important to me. Um, and it's funny because I think people start gaining a huge trust in me that way because they may want to see 8. I tell them we're only going to see 4. And when we drive by the other 4, they're like, oh, yeah, I don't want to see that one. Oh, yeah, I don't like where that one's located. Or, oh, yeah, that one has a cemetery next to it. I don't want to do that. So I build trust in them on that very first day. And that's how they become clients. Um,
So it kind of starts with you ask them a million questions, you really get to know them.
mhm,
And I think people in today's day and age are a little bit surprised when a salesperson takes the time to do that because usually they're calling you, they're like, hey, I want to see a house. A lot of agents will just say, okay, let's go see the house. But that's a bad use of everybody involved's time. And you have that knowledge, but also that experience to say, hey, no, I'm not going to listen to you. I'm going to ask you more questions and really listen to you and then tell you the answer to your questions and give you my best versus just doing what you're asking because they're hiring you for a
yeah.
reason. I love
I'd,
it. And go
I'd
ahead.
rather show less houses and then the houses that really are appropriate to what they've said they wanted. I'd rather take them from that house to the local school that their children will go to, maybe to the train station that they may need to go to every morning to commute, or to the library. Like I like to take them from the house to areas that they will use if they were actually living in that home. So to me, I think that's much better time spent than just running around and seeing 8 houses when 4 of them are not going to work.
That's a genius idea. Like anyone listening who works with clients that aren't from the area, I think taking them on like a sample commute of like what is that drive from the house to the school, from the house to daycare, from the house to the gym, from the house to the golf course, from the house to work. Give them that idea. And I think a lot of realtors would be fearful of doing that because they think it's going to thwart the sale. But at the end of the day, wouldn't you rather put someone in a house that's perfect for them where they're going to then brag about you and how great you are, give you referrals to their friends, and work with you again in the future versus they're going to be miserable in that house
Yes,
if you don't do that?
I agree.
I love that example. What about when we look at your area, what are the average price points? What kind of buyer and seller trends are you seeing right now? Because a lot of realtors listening to the show have clients, moving from coast to coast, and I want to make sure they understand your market in case they have a client that they need to refer to.
Okay. Well, there's no inventory here. So
So they shouldn't refer you
no,
clients.
no, please refer the clients because you know what it is? It's you want to be the realtor that's getting the very few listings that are coming on the market. You want to be that person getting those listings. They are all going to sell and pretty much sell very quickly. I also enjoy being with buyers because this is an emotional roller coaster for both buyer and seller. It's amazing how once a group decides to sell their home, they can be so professional when you're talking about listing it and coming up with the prices and negotiating your commission. And then they get to the first day it's on the market and they fall apart and become emotional. So, one of the most important things as a realtor is to really just make sure you're managing everybody's emotions. Buyers are going into homes, they're writing offers, they're doing the best they can, and they're not getting them. So, you're back out there doing it again. I have always believed my entire life that there's something better out there for them if they miss that opportunity. I know it, I feel it. I'm showing a great couple who lost something that they thought they'd never find the right house. I'm showing them the right house this Saturday, so tomorrow. So I'm really excited for them. we'll find everyone a home. It'll happen. You just have to manage expectations, be honest, and be a very good communicator.
I love that. And something that I'm seeing too is that, we have this perception right now because the market has gone up year after year after year for like 11 years now, that homes are unaffordable. And yes, there's $1 million homes out there that are unaffordable for many people. However, what I'm noticing when I'm looking at buyer data is that we're getting more and more people that have to move who are finding homes that work for
Yeah.
them. They're going a little bit further away. If they're staying closer, they're buying a little bit smaller. If they're staying in a bougie area, they're maybe buying a home that needs a little bit of work. But the people that want to move are making it work. So when you're marketing, I think it's really important to market that real people are still buying houses. Last month, we did 9 nurses, we did 1 doctor, we did 12 accountants, and we did a whole bunch of firefighters, police officers, and normal ass people. And so I think when you're in real estate sales, it's really important to market the fact that normal people are buying houses too. Because if your clients think that you only serve, lifestyles of the rich and famous, then they're just not going to call you. And eventually, you're doing them a disservice because they're not getting to the real estate market, and then they're not, they're not building that wealth or equity.
Right. Well, that in Fairfield or this Fairfield Southport area that I work in, the average home sale price pre-COVID was 750,000. Now it's 1,100,000. So big jump, big change. And a lot of people think, oh my, I'm never going to be able to afford to live there. But there are lots of towns right on the outskirts, and there's inventory for everyone. It's very low, but there's many price points that people can hit. I think in almost any area. So
I totally agree. And I think that's probably the moral of the show, right? Like if you simply find a way to meet new people of all demographics, all walks of life, and then second, you find homes that work for a variety of people, connect the homes with those people, and you will have a career in real estate, just like Libby and a lot of the other people on the show. Libby, this was awesome. If someone out there does have someone moving to the East Coast, to the Southport, Westport, Connecticut area, how would they get a hold of you?
Call me. 203-913-9454. I give my number out freely. Give me a call. I am 24/7, 7 days a week. So please call me. I can help you in so many areas in Connecticut. I'm here.
Awesome. Libby, thanks for joining the show today.
Thank you. So nice to meet you.